I have been deeply moved and in some cases troubled by the stories I have been told about a welfare system that already isn't working for people, but which continues to provide a lifeline for so many in our community, including disabled people. This has left a legacy of ill health, insecure work and an economy that simply isn't working for people. And it hasn't worked for decades, let's be honest about this. Hello everybody, I hope you're keeping well. Welcome back to my channel. Grand day rising, each and every one of you. Today I would like to read a response from my MP for East Thanet, Polly Billington, entitled Your Views on the Welfare Bill, case reference PB 08434. I wrote through one of the groups I'm involved with to ask her to vote against the welfare cuts the other week. It says, Dear Catherine, thank you for writing to me about reforming the welfare system and for sharing your own views with me. Since these reforms were first announced, I have received a huge number of emails from constituents sharing their concerns about the impact they might have on vulnerable people, including from people in receipt of benefits like personal independence payments, PIP, who feared they would be personally impacted. I have been deeply moved and in some cases troubled by the stories I have been told about a welfare system that already isn't working for people, but which continues to provide a lifeline for so many in our community, including disabled people. I have shared many of your concerns directly with ministers and know that your voices have made a real difference in persuading the government in changing course. I stood to be the MP for East Thanet because I believe strongly that coastal communities like ours have been let down by 14 years of Conservative government. Although, to be fair, it's been let down not just by Conservative governments, but many governments before and since, like the current government, for example. This has left a legacy of ill health, insecure work and an economy that simply isn't working for people. And it hasn't worked for decades, let's be honest about this. This debate over welfare has brought the problems our community are facing into sharp relief and only served to underscore the deep reform that is needed so we can build an economy that delivers good jobs for people who are able to work and a welfare system that supports those who need it. I mean, one of the problems in Thanet is that it's mostly service industry. What we need as a country is manufacturing rather than just service, because service spends resources and manufacturing creates resources. And a good economy is always underpinned by a strong manufacturing base. It's that simple, really. Another problem, especially in coastal areas, is that pay tends to be the minimum wage, and let's face it, with the way prices have increased, whatever the government tried to tell you otherwise, prices have rocketed. And I have estimated the cost of living to have gone up by about 33% on last year's prices. I go by my food shopping bill. I keep track of every penny. That's my truth anyway. And there are some people who do agree with me on that. So people aren't really earning enough money to live without benefits. And where are the jobs going to be in the coastal areas? Without the manufacturing, it's going to be service industry. So things like shops and cafes, restaurants, old people's homes and hospitals, to name but a few. Maybe if they're lucky they might get a job as a teaching assistant in education, but in order to be able to do that one needs a reasonably good standard of education, and unfortunately in coastal areas as well as some urban areas that too is lacking. I do not underestimate the financial pressures on our welfare system. Under the Conservatives, spending on working age benefits reached $48.5 billion, and it's forecast to rise to $75.7 billion by 2030, almost twice the defence budget. We do need to bring these costs under control, but that has to be done in the right way, by supporting people to find work and tackling the underlying reasons why they are out of work in the first place. Well, yeah, that's true. I agree with Polly on that. But again, the thing is, what kind of jobs? It's what is available. The other thing that needs to be tackled is things like childcare, the high cost of childcare. Even several years ago, it was costing some of my friends £900 a month per child. We don't have a system that is really built for self-sufficiency in so many ways. Take the utilities, for example. We import 70% of our power, and up to 70% of our utilities are foreign owned as well, and this adds to costs. We need to be finding ways, nothing to do with this net zero stuff. We need to be finding sound, sensible ways of creating our own energy so we can offer it at a much lower rate, the kinds of rates we used to. But of course, a lot of our power stations and other forms have been discontinued in pursuit of pie in the sky ideas such as solar and wind power. Wind power is possibly one of the daftest things, because when there is no wind, then nothing turns, and generators must be used. It's complete idiocy. Also, of course, you have to think about the solar panels. Most of them are made in China, covering acres and acres of farmland that could be used to grow food. And again, we import so much of our foodstuffs, and the prices rise and rise, especially with things like import-export duty, that kind of thing. And then there's the problem of rents as well in this country. A place like Ramsgate, maybe £900, £1,000, £1,300 per month to rent. Not a spectacular place, just a normal maybe 1 or 2 bedroom abode. Beginning to reach city prices when the local people don't earn anything like that. So how is any of this going to work? It would appear that everything is in a complete shambles, and it all needs to be swept away and started from scratch. The monopolies ended, the backhanders, and all the other things that go with such a system. Those who have written to me before will know that there are many aspects of what the government is proposing that I welcome. Increasing the basic rate of universal credit, £1 billion in additional support to get people with disabilities and long-term conditions back into work. But of course, for that to happen, the employers need to be receptive. They may need to spend money investing in workplace aids to assist the disabled to do their job. And there's also the thing about national insurance, with it having gone up quite a lot. There's more businesses that are laying off staff than are taking them on, and also less reliance on migrant workers because they don't want to pay a decent wage for people to do their jobs. It can be easier for young graduates as well to find work at the expense of older people who have the experience and the knowledge that younger people lack. Older people are sometimes just left on the scrap heap. I found this when I was trying to find work. It was very difficult finding work as an older person, almost impossible. And at that time, I wasn't even 50 years old and was highly qualified, sometimes more so than the people who were interviewing me. Improvements to the Access to Work scheme that funds reasonable adjustments for disabled people in the workplace. And a new right to try guarantee that means people with disabilities can try out a new job without risking losing their benefits if it doesn't work out. Well, that is quite important, because sometimes workplaces will use somebody and then after a certain time will let them go. But I have been really concerned by other proposals, particularly the plan to restrict eligibility to claim PIP. PIP is provided to people with long-term health conditions or disabilities, whether or not they are in work, which are intended to cover the additional costs associated with managing a disability. And remember too, there are hidden disabilities. Changes to the eligibility criteria for PIP could have meant some people who need help with tasks like washing their hair, washing their body below the waist or cooking food would lose access to PIP, with some potentially facing significant hardship as a result. It's difficult to see how those cuts aligned with the underlying principles of supporting people back into work and protecting the most vulnerable. Since first becoming aware the government was planning to make cuts to PIP, I have worked hard to convince ministers to reconsider, including by questioning the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions in the House of Commons, which you can watch by clicking here. So now let's listen to what Polly Billington has to say.
My right honourable friend will know that the Tory legacy in coastal communities like mine in East Thanet is a broken welfare system and a broken economy. The number of people claiming PIP has more than doubled in my constituency since 2018, and the statistics on young people claiming for mental health conditions are particularly heartbreaking. But two things can be true at once. Too many people are being written off without a path to wellness and work, and there must be reliable support for those who can't work. Can my right honourable friend explain how reducing support for those who struggle to wash and dress themselves will help tackle either of these challenges?
My right honourable friend, as always, speaks passionately about her constituency and the need to make sure that the support for people who can work is there, but also that we protect those. I would say every case needs to be judged on an individual basis. We will make sure that that happens. And may I say to the House and Madam Deputy Speaker, I know many people would have wanted to ask more questions and to say more. My door is always open. We want and need to get this right.
Yes, well, that's certainly food for thought. Last week, you may have seen that I signed a reasoned amendment that made clear ministers needed to think again, and which was signed by more than 100 Labour MPs. opposing my own party so publicly was not a decision I took lightly, but one I personally applaud. But I wanted to be sure that ministers knew that I was serious when I said that I could not support these plans if changes were not made. After this, I worked hard to negotiate changes to the bill to ensure it does not prove counterproductive to the government's aims of ensuring those who can work are working, while protecting the most vulnerable. I am pleased the government listened to our concerns and agreed to a series of compromises. 1. Changes to PIP will be shelved until a government review is carried out, with a new system co-produced with people with disabilities. But this needs to be, I think, neutral rather than government driven. And I mean properly neutral. Not the government by stealth, but proper, independent, neutral. The government will no longer be freezing the health element of universal credit, which would have cost claimants about £250 a year by the end of this Parliament, and it will instead rise with inflation. The £1 billion budget for helping people into work will be increased, and the spending will be brought forward to this year, ensuring the additional support is available immediately. But as I've said before, this shouldn't be a piecemeal task. It needs to be conducted in a fair and rational way, not just bull at a gate. Oh, let's try this, let's try that. Oh God, it's ended in disaster yet again. These are all important changes that I have worked hard to secure, and I know will be of a huge relief to many people in East Thanet. I'm particularly pleased that the government will now involve disabled people in the co-production of a new disability benefit system to ensure their voices are heard. You can listen to a clip of me talking to LBC Radio about the concessions we secured earlier this week by clicking here. So let's have a quick listen to that.
Well, I think the Labour Party actually did one of the things which it's really good at when it's focused, which is to remind itself about its values and focus on governing the country in line with its values and why people put us into power, which is to make sure that we rewire this economy to work for people. And that's people who can work, so they should, and people who can't work, so we protect them. I think there's some fundamental things that we've got in the conversations that have been happening over the last couple of days. And one is that the Stephen Timms review, is going to involve co-production of the way that this is done, PIP assessments are done going forward with disabled people.
Yeah.
Now that is an absolute game changer. So we've got some good things that are going to happen. We know we need to change it. We know people have been left out, but also remember, PIP, which is where most people are concerned about, is not an out-of-work benefit.
Yeah.
17% of people on PIP work, and we didn't want those people to find themselves in a situation where they were being penalised when they were actually doing the right thing. The welfare state really matters to everybody in this country, because you never know. You're, as one of my colleagues said this morning, you're a car accident away from needing personal independence payments or indeed the health element of universal credit. So let's remember that this is the way that we share our risk and reduce our risk as a country so that we can all live the lives we'd like to, even if awful things happen. And that's what we need to be designing our welfare state for.
Well, thanks for that, Polly. The changes I have helped secure represent important progress as the government begins to tackle the root causes of ill health and unemployment. Well, I'll wish them luck on that, because this has been a problem for many decades now. It's ingrown rather like a toenail. For some, although not most, it's a way of life, sadly. But for many, the choice of whether to work or not is overshadowed by one's burdens of disability and the cost of living and the benefits trap in general. Please rest assured that I will always speak up for the residents of East Thanet and will continue to champion reform of the system that is fair, compassionate and shaped by the voices of those most affected. There are a lot of people, in fact, in East Thanet with disabilities of one kind or another, be it physical or maybe something like depression or bipolar or ADHD, ASD, other forms of autism and fibromyalgia, arthritis and many other conditions. And I suppose one of the reasons why they come to the seaside is to recuperate, because the sea air has long been known for its beneficial properties, but as well the way that the NHS is run, if one needs to go and see a doctor, one is not able to. If one needs to see to a potential disability and needs to be going to a hospital for further investigations, how can that happen when they can't even get to see a doctor? If one has an ongoing problem, it's even nigh impossible to see a doctor. A late friend of mine who had diabetes and had to take insulin every day, she was unable at one point to even acquire the insulin because the pharmacy had run out of it. I mean, this is the state of things. It's all very well wanting to sort out the root cause of why somebody is in ill health and out of work. It's another thing solving the problems. Please rest assured I will always speak up for the residents of East Thanet and will continue to champion reform of the system that is fair, compassionate and shaped by the voices of those most affected. Thank you for writing to me about this important issue, and please don't hesitate to get back in touch if there are any further points you'd like to raise with me. Where do I start? And where do we end with it all? But I would like to thank Polly Billington for representing the constituents of East Thanet and for standing up to the government over the recent welfare cuts. It's greatly appreciated. Although I don't personally claim benefits, I think I probably could have done, but I don't claim benefits. I know many people who do and for whom those benefits are essential to live anywhere near like a normal life, whatever normal is. Let me know what normal is. If you know too, if you know something that I don't, because these days I certainly don't know what normal is in any way, shape or form. Anyway, that's that for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please do comment. What are your views? Let's have a debate. Please share. Please subscribe. Ding the notification bell. And I will see you again soon for maybe something a little more entertaining. Until then, bye for now. Chin up.